Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The General Hospital update for Wednesday, July 1st indicates that Nina Reeves will come through for Jack Brennan in a big manner. Nathan West aka Cassius Faison will also find himself in a pickle while ADA Justine Turner is terrified of being kidnapped. Jen Sidwell will continue to call the shots in the gallery because he is the one with the firearm. To survive, Ava Jerome, Ethan Lovett, and Justine must follow Sidwell's orders. However, Justine will be in the most risk since Sidwell plans to include her in his Sonny Corinthos scheme. Sidwell will kidnap Justine and use her to draw Sonny into the confrontation he has been waiting for. After Giovanni Gio Palmieri insists on staying at Sonny's house, Sonny discovers Justine is in trouble. You can bet Sonny will want to keep Gio as far away from the danger as possible. As Sidwell predicted, Sonny will step up for Justine, putting numerous lives at risk as the situation escalates. Ava will explode at all of the havoc Sidwell is wreaking, and she may find unexpected comfort from Ethan shortly. Nina will take a closer look at Brennan at Turning Woods now that she has discovered him badly injured as a result of Ross Cullum's terrible plan. Although Brennan will not be breathing at first, Nina will eventually save him from a premature death. Next, Lucas Jones will receive shocking news. That may be about Carly Spencer if he discovers she ran off to Windmere without him. There's also a chance Lucas may discover Nathan isn't the genuine deal, since that revelation will air on Wednesday's episode of General Hospital. Joe Fitzpatrick knows Nathan is actually Dirty Cassius, so he'll issue an APB to Detective Nathan West, in the hopes of preventing him from departing Port Charles. Cassius is already attempting to flee with James West, but it appears that Cody Bell will successfully interfere and stop the kidnapping in process. It appears that Nathan will have to bid James farewell rather than embark on a new life with him somewhere. Carly will overhear a conversation in Windmere and discover something amazing. That could refer to Cassius posing as Nathan and being held responsible for Jocelyn's initial capture. Of course, Jocelyn is hoping that Liesl Obrecht can unlock that electronic door lock and get them out of their bind, but there will be some tense moments as Joss worries about severing the correct cable. Carly will get busted upstairs. Cullum will be relieved to see Carly, as he had planned to kidnap her anyhow, but she may notify him that Valentine Cassadine is already plotting Cullum's downfall in Geneva. According to General Hospital teasers, Carly will unleash her wrath on Cullum and demand Jocelyn's return. But Cullum will not make it easy. Nina Reeves Corinthos moved with a sense of urgency she hadn't felt in years, her heart hammering as she explored the poorly lighted halls of the abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Port Charles. The air was thick with dust and had the metallic flavor of blood. Jack Brennan lay slumped against a crate, his breathing labored, a bullet wound blazing red on his side. The guy who had once been a formidable WSB agent, embroiled in innumerable schemes with Nina and the complex web of Port Charles families, was now fading. Nina, dressed in dark attire that blended into the shadows, had followed a tip from an odd source, one of Brennan's erstwhile associates who owed her a favor in the aftermath of Drew Kane and the congressional scandals. "Don't you dare die on me, Jack," Nina said firmly, putting a makeshift bandage across the wound. She had come just in time after hearing rumors of an ambush planned by remnants of the old Cassadine network or possibly Sidwell's last allies. Brennan's eyelids fluttered open, a feeble smirk spreading across his face despite the discomfort. Nina. Always the savior. Or the schemer. Which one today? As she sought to steady him, she recalled their convoluted relationship. Nina has previously joined with Brennan to defeat mutual foes, including navigating the consequences from Carly's connections and the ongoing Sonny Corinthos storyline. But this felt different, more personal. Brennan had protected her daughter Willow in subtle ways during the most recent threats, and Nina owed him. She requested assistance surreptitiously, avoiding official avenues that could notify his foes. Paramedics arrived under the radar and whisked him away to a private institution. Nina remained at his side throughout the night, her thoughts shifting to the larger storms brewing in Port Charles. Meanwhile, the Port Charles Police Department issued an all-points bulletin via radio and digital notifications. Fake Nathan was on the loose again. The man mimicking Nathan West, complete with a startling resemblance that had fooled even Maxie Jones' closest friends, had reappeared after a time of silence. Rumors linked him to the Cassadine remnants and possibly to kidnapping operations involving many residents. Dante Falconeri led the manhunt, his face carved with frustration. Maxie grabbed her phone closely after hearing the news, as memories of her late spouse flood back. "This imposter has caused enough pain," she warned Spinelli, who was already breaking into security channels to monitor suspicious activity. The phony Nathan's motivations remained unknown, perhaps pursuing vengeance for Faison's former empire or infiltrating Lucas Jones' complex family relations at Windmere. Lucas Jones, who was still reeling from recent personal upheavals such as his relationship problems with Marco Rios and the aftereffects of his own encounters with danger, was drawn back into the vortex once more. He had been at the hospital when news of Brennan's shooting broke, and now the APB has added another layer of tension. Lucas' connection to the Jones-West family lineage made the phony Nathan's appearance all the more frightening. As a doctor, his primary goal was to save lives, but the continual dangers at Port Charles tested his willpower on a daily basis. He checked on patients while monitoring warnings, wondering how this latest imposter fit into the bigger picture of Sidwell's schemes and the power conflicts between Sonny, Jason, and the Cassadines. A new problem broke out just as the department was mobilizing. Justine, a relatively new but significant person in the canvas, possibly a young woman linked to the Spencer or Corinthos orbit via extended relatives or recent arrivals, disappeared under strange circumstances. Reports rushed in of her last sighting near the docks, where she had been looking for leads on the false Nathan or perhaps exploring Brennan's business. Her kidnapping caused shockwaves. Carly Corinthos Spencer, the protective lioness, was among the first to respond. Justine's disappearance touched close to home, possibly as a result of Jocelyn's recent experiences, or as part of a larger revenge against individuals who supported the main families. Carly walked the Metro Court lobby, her thoughts whirling. She had been managing her own delicate connections, including a tentative partnership with Valentine Cassadine to dismantle Jack Brennan's remaining power, but Nina's courageous gesture complicated everything. "We need to find her," Carly said Sonny over the phone, her voice firm but full of worry. Sonny pledged resources as he dealt with his own health and organizational challenges. Jason Morgan, the staunch enforcer, was already on the streets, riding his bike through the night while following breadcrumbs. The rescue operations for Justine were entangled with the search for the phony Nathan. Clues indicated that the imposter may have been engaged in the abduction, using it as leverage or distraction while Brennan was vulnerable. Nina, after securing Jack's safety, joined the fray indirectly. She contacted contacts in the fashion and media industries. Her Crimson Empire still supplied eyes and ears everywhere to investigate suspicious conduct. "This town never sleeps," she whispered, thinking on her transformation from a cunning reporter to a successful entrepreneur and mother. Her rescue of Brennan may provide her power or forgiveness in the eyes of those who saw him as a threat. At Windmere, Lucas confronted Marco about the perils that were threatening their lives. The castle-like mansion, once a symbol of Cassadine grandeur, now resembled a pressure cooker. Marco's ties to Sidwell and vendetta against Sonny caused friction, particularly with Lucas's commitment to his original family, including Carly and Bobby's legacy. "We can't keep ignoring this," Lucas insisted. Their talk was cut short by Justine-related warnings, which placed Lucas on emergency medical standby in case she was found injured. The search became more intense as dawn broke over Port Charles. Dante and Chase led teams to warehouses and abandoned sites, while Spinelli supplied technical support from his van, where screens displayed surveillance feeds. Maxie, determined not to let the phony Nathan damage any more lives, insisted on assisting despite warnings. Her perseverance, learned over years of loss and reinvention, shone through. "Nathan was my everything. This ruse will not succeed," she asserted. Justine, meantime, awoke in a dimly lit room, wrists shackled and head pounding. She was ambushed while researching a lead on the imposter. Her abductor, presumably the false Nathan or one of his friends, lurked in the shadows. "You're the key to drawing them out," he snarled, his voice sounding remarkably like Nathan's. Justine's relationship, possibly as a relative or informant, made her valuable. She remembered her friends and family, the Spencers' adventurous energy, Corinthos' loyalty. She had to remain strong. Brennan regained consciousness in the hospital, with Nina by his bedside. "Why?" he inquired faintly. Nina shrugged, her eyes reflecting a mix of defiance and vulnerability. Because despite everything, you're not all bad. And Port Charles needs balance. Too much chaos and we all lose. Their moment was cut short by Justine updates. Despite his injuries, Brennan provided information, names, locations, that could help solve the case. Carly and Lucas met at the PCPD, and their mutual concern for Justine and Jocelyn's past ordeals led to a short alliance. Lucas, the dedicated doctor and uncle figure, encouraged Carly's determination. "We'll get her back," he promised. They planned a plan with Jason based on Brennan's suggestions, which resulted in a raid on a remote property associated to Sidwell's previous operations. The confrontation was tight and explosive. Shots rang out as police and supporters swarmed the scene. When cornered, the phony Nathan divulged bits of his objective, including vengeance for previous WSB betrayals, and a desire to infiltrate the Jones family for unexplained reasons. Justine was liberated among the turmoil, injured but alive, and collapsed into the arms of rescuers. Lucas gave rapid medical assistance, stabilizing her before transport. Following the incident, celebrations were tempered by continuous threats. Nina's rescue of Brennan stirred controversy. Had she once again associated herself too closely with danger? Carly confronted her, ancient grudges seething, but mutual respect for family prevailed. "We protect our own," Carly remarked. Nina nodded. "Even when it's complicated." Lucas returned to Marco, their bond tested but strong. The false Nathan was captured, but deeper schemes remained unsolved. Justine, in recovery, vowed to fight smarter, her ordeal fortifying her resolve. Port Charles sighed a collective sigh, but as usual, new storms raged. Brennan's rehabilitation would cause power shifts. The APB ended one chapter, but the town's restless souls, Nina, Carly, Lucas, Maxie, Sonny, and Jason, were aware that quiet was ephemeral. Bonds strengthened during the crises, secrets simmered, and the drama of General Hospital continued its never-ending, mesmerizing dance. Families reconnected, foes planned, and heroes emerged from the shadows, demonstrating once more that survival in this town required battling together, no matter the cost. Nina Reeves chanced to be nearby, while conducting unrelated business. She instinctively ran toward the site after hearing the ruckus, despite the evident risk. Most people would have sought cover right then, but Nina sensed someone severely needed assistance. When she arrived, she discovered that Brennan had lost a large amount of blood. Despite her fear, Nina maintained a remarkable level of serenity under pressure. She contacted 911 right away, and did everything she could to control the bleeding. Brennan slipped in and out of consciousness, striving to stay alert as Nina urged him to keep fighting. The attackers understood Brennan had survived the initial assault, and pondered completing the mission. However, the increasing number of witnesses, along with approaching sirens, prompted them to flee before finishing their task. Their escape merely confirmed suspicions that trained experts, not regular crooks, were involved. Paramedics arrived quickly and noticed Brennan's significant injuries. Brennan still had a fighting shot, thanks to Nina's swift actions. Medical personnel eventually recognized that even a few minutes' delay may have resulted in a completely different outcome. Nina's heroism most likely saved his life. Doctors at General Hospital rushed Brennan to the emergency room, and security surrounding the institution was drastically tightened. Given the circumstances surrounding the shooting, authorities feared he would be targeted again before revealing what he knew. Police officers secured all entrances as investigators interrogated everyone involved in the incident. News of Brennan's health traveled swiftly across Port Charles. Carly Spencer strained to comprehend what had occurred. Despite their difficult connection, she understood Brennan's importance in the continuing investigation. She was also concerned that whoever wanted him silent might still be watching from the shadows. Sonny Corinthos received details from credible sources and quickly recognized the situation as more than a random act of violence. The attack's precision suggested that it was carried out by skilled operators. Sonny secretly directed his own network to acquire information, knowing that the official investigation alone would not unearth the whole truth quickly enough. While Brennan fought for his life, another horrible event occurred with Justine. Justine resumed her daily routine, unaware that she had become a target, believing herself to be safe. Unfortunately, Someone had been carefully watching her activities and waiting for the best time to strike. Late in the afternoon, Justine got what appeared to be an urgent message asking for an immediate meeting. The mail appeared credible since it mentioned information that only close associates should have known. Justine consented to meet, thinking she was assisting someone in need, not realizing the entire event had been contrived. When she arrived at the designated spot, everything appeared quiet. Moments later, a car pulled alongside her. Before she could comprehend what was going on, masked individuals forced her inside. The kidnapping occurred with startling rapidity, leaving little room for resistance. Witnesses had barely a fleeting glimpse of the struggle before the truck vanished into traffic. By the time police received emergency calls, the kidnappers had vanished. The meticulously conducted kidnapping revealed considerable planning rather than a random incident. When officials confirmed Justine's disappearance, panic spread quickly. Investigators immediately considered whether her disappearance was directly related to Brennan's shooting and the bogus Nathan inquiry. The timing was far too strange to be dismissed as coincidence. Anna promptly formed a dedicated response team. Every possible clue was investigated, including local surveillance cameras, phone records, and traffic monitoring systems. Unfortunately, the kidnappers appeared to have anticipated the investigating procedures, leaving very few usable clues. Jason offered to aid with the search using his own ways. His experience dealing with organized crime made him very effective in kidnapping cases. He believed that speed was more important than anything else, because the first 24 hours frequently determined whether victims could be safely recovered. Meanwhile, the fictitious Nathan continued to move through the shadows, obviously knowing that investigators were closing in. Instead of panicking, he reorganized his plans with surprising discipline. Despite the expanding APB, each new report indicated that he was still many steps ahead of the investigators. Dante became increasingly frustrated when potential leads fell through. Witnesses frequently reported sightings that turned out to be false, wasting critical resources and giving the culprit more time to leave. Someone appeared to be purposely confusing investigators by flooding them with incorrect information. Maxie couldn't ignore the emotional impact of the investigation. Every fresh news featuring Nathan's name compelled her to revisit memories she adored. Friends rallied behind Sarah, assuring her that someone purporting to be Nathan could not erase his true legacy. Nevertheless, the situation remained extremely severe. Brennan briefly recovered consciousness after returning to the hospital. Doctors restricted visitation owing to his delicate state, but investigators hoped he may recall something important about his attackers. Before tiredness seized him again, Brennan managed to murmur a few fragmentary words that suggested the plot was considerably larger than anyone had previously realized. Anna was immediately drawn to those enigmatic comments. Brennan appeared certain that trusted persons had already been compromised. If this is accurate, it means that secret information is leaking directly from within the institutions in charge of preventing the crooks. The notion prompted detectives to reconsider everyone engaged in the case. Nina remained upset by the day's events, but she refused to leave the hospital completely. Although she had responded instantly during the gunshot, she suddenly realized how close Brennan had come to death. The event reminded her how fast life can change, and how even longtime competitors might rely on unexpected allies. Carly subsequently commended Nina for refusing to abandon Brennan when he needed aid. Their chat remained unpleasant due to their convoluted history, but both women agreed that preserving a life was far more important than previous arguments. Years of conflict went away for a brief period. Sonny continued to receive intelligence from his contacts. Several reports indicated that unknown people had just entered Port Charles under fraudulent IDs. It was unclear whether those arrivals were directly connected to the fictitious Nathan, but the evidence heightened suspicions that many spies were working together. Jason eventually discovered another alarming aspect. Financial transactions involving shell firms revealed that large funds had been channeled into recent operations near Port Charles. The quantities involved exceeded what would be expected from conventional criminal activities, indicating that affluent backers remained concealed behind the scenes. As nightfall fell over the city, officers maintained roadblocks and continued their search for both the false Nathan and any evidence leading to Justine. Despite numerous hours of inquiry, breakthroughs were frustratingly few. The crooks had carefully planned, exploiting every flaw in the system. Justine gradually regained consciousness within a secluded environment. She realized she was being bound within an unknown room, which confused and scared her. Although her kidnappers stayed relatively silent, she knew they sought knowledge that only she could supply. Determined not to expose innocent people, Justine braced herself for any questions that could arise. Her kidnappers planned their next step carefully, knowing that law authorities would soon intensify their hunt. Rather than acting rashly, they focused on relocating before authorities narrowed their inquiry. Every decision showed discipline and professional organization. At the same moment, the phony Nathan learned that Brennan had lived. The news definitely affected any plans that had been put in motion. If Brennan recovers sufficiently to identify important information, the entire enterprise may become exposed. New orders were surreptitiously delivered, implying that more perilous measures would shortly follow. Anna gathered her closest allies for one last strategy session before the night ended. She highlighted that the shooting, kidnapping, and phony Nathan probe could no longer be dealt separately. Every development pointed to a concerted scheme, aimed at destabilizing Port Charles, while concealing an even greater secret. Nobody in the room underestimated the obstacles ahead. Trusted connections would be put to the test, unforeseen betrayals were possible, and innocent lives remained at risk. Despite tiredness and rising pressure, the will to find the truth never wavered. By the end of the day, Port Charles was on the verge of an even bigger calamity. Brennan's survival brought hope that important information would finally be revealed, thanks in large part to Nina's bold intervention. The APB against the phony Nathan became larger as investigators raced against time to apprehend the elusive imposter before he vanished forever. Meanwhile, Justine's kidnapping created a completely new sense of urgency, reminding everyone that the adversary was willing to hit anyone who stood in their path. As innumerable unanswered questions hung over the city, one thing became painfully clear. The war for the truth had only just begun, and the next steps taken by both heroes and villains would determine the fate of everyone caught in the midst.